Is Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut Creed 3 a knockout? Let's find out now. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Creed 3, which is the third film in the Creed franchise and the, I guess, ninth film in the overall Rocky series. It continues the story of Adonis Creed, who was Apollo Creed's son. And like I said, this is the third film in the Creed franchise, but it's also Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. So he stars as Adonis Creed, and this is his first feature-length movie that he's directed. And my hot take is, look, I think you should rent it. It is a very impressive directorial debut for Michael B. Jordan. But overall, I didn't like this film as much as I liked the previous ones. I thought that it was a little bit over dramatic at times, and strangely, it pulls some punches in the boxing action. I thought that the boxing is kind of what brings you to a Rocky / Creed movie, and in this one, the boxing just didn't feel like it was as intense and as kind of well done as previous movies. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and briefly go to the ending because I have to for some of the things I didn't love as much. So there will be spoilers in the ending section if you don't want to know what happens in the film. And you might not. There are some pretty big turns in this. There are some pretty big surprises. Then I would turn it off when I get to the ending section, or at least when I get to the spoilers part. I'll probably get to the spoilers and the things I didn't like as much. So you can watch up until then. I'll keep it vague. But when I get to the spoilers part, definitely turn it off if you don't want to know. So Creed 3 follows on Adonis Creed's story, where now he is essentially retired. He retired about 3 years ago and is now just kind of like living life. He runs a boxing arena, like boxing school, essentially. And he is just enjoying time with his family and enjoying time as a professional, no longer in the ring. But all that comes to a head when someone from his past re-enters his life, and that brings up some new tensions and some new issues that could send Adonis Creed's life and his professional career on a very different trajectory. So things I liked about this movie: the first, love the characters. I like the characters. I like kind of what they've done with the Creed franchise. I like how they've kind of portrayed Adonis and kind of his like rise to prominence, trying to like not feed off of his father's name, but then eventually having to embrace it. I like how his wife Bianca is a strong kind of professional who is still kind of doing her career, but choosing different life priorities and things like that. And, I like just the overall world that they've built. In this film, they really try to give some more backstory to Adonis and give some more kind of emotional depth to Adonis. Does it work? Yeah, we'll see. But I like living in this world, so I'm really glad that we were able to come back to it. The second thing I really loved is the cast. Like, you can't really ask for a better cast here. Michael B. Jordan is fantastic. I will see anything he's in. Tessa Thompson is also fantastic. Together, they are really good on screen. They have a really good chemistry and a really good kind of like back and forth, especially when some of the drama happens. And Jonathan Majors does a really great job as Damian Anderson. He has to do some very difficult things, both for his character and also physically. Like, he is supposed to be a boxer and he is physically cut. He looks great in this, and same with Michael B. Jordan. I mean, Michael B. Jordan clearly got in great shape he's already in great shape, but he clearly got more cut, more physically in shape for this film. It really helps to kind of sell the authenticity of this franchise. And also, I really like Wood Harris as kind of an old boxing coach. He does a really good job. I like how he kind of adds some humor, but also is kind of a voice of reason in a lot of this. So the cast is fantastic overall. And the third thing I really love is the setting. It's set in LA. You get some really beautiful areas. You get to see the city lights. You get to see Adonis's amazing house, and the fights themselves are set in some pretty interesting arenas. I won't spoil it, but there are some really nice locales that are spotlighted in the LA area. And the fourth thing I liked is, and I hope that I can find an image of this, is Michael B. Jordan has a great mustache. I mean, it's just a fantastic stash, and I love that he brought it for this film. So now, things I didn't love as much, and here there will be spoilers. So if you don't want to know what happens in the film, I would turn it off now. Just know that Creed 3 comes at the theaters on March 3rd, 2023. I think you should rent it, but if you see it in theaters, you'll probably enjoy it. It is a fun movie to see in theaters. So things I didn't love as much. First, and kind of main, are the character turns. Now, they kind of have to do this for this film, but essentially Damian's character seems to kind of turn on a dime. And I know that's kind of partially, that's supposed to be the main dramatic factor in this, but it felt like it was a little bit too quick, I think. Like, he kind of his character goes from like really kind of asking, trying to get some help, but also not wanting a handout, to then like going full 180 and becoming the villain foil in this. And then, spoilers, in the end, he turns again very quickly to kind of like have a redemption-ish moment, but it just feels a little bit too much. It feels like he just goes, left and right way too quickly for the convenience of the story. The second thing I didn't love as much, it feels a little over dramatic given what's at stake here. I mean, it kind of feels similar to how the Rocky movies felt, where there was a lot of drama there. But I feel like in the Rocky movies, they kind of sold some of the personal drama a little better. Like especially when Rocky goes from this like super luxurious lifestyle to then having nothing because of some bad financial decision. Like that made it seem like, okay, now he's got to like work his way up and really kind of rebuild his reputation. Whereas here, the film feels like it just kind of like tries to ratchet up the drama for this big final confrontation that happens, but it doesn't really feel earned. It feels like it takes a very, very long time to get there, and then it really tries to like up it to 11 just for that essential moment and then goes back down. The third thing I did not love as much, and this is a surprising one for a Creed movie, the boxing action. I didn't think it was as good as I was kind of expecting. I think maybe part of this is because they do these like essentially fight night moments at times, like where um sometimes it'll slow down, which is fine, and like Adonis Creed will see something, or the other boxer will see something, and then they have these like moments where they'll do a punch and it'll like super slow mo, essentially like what Fight Night did. Like Fight Night will do this. Fight Night does this as well. When you knock the person out, it like goes to really slow mo. You see a really close up, zoomed in face, or a really close up, zoomed in like body blow that then ripples through, and then the person goes down. Well, they do that in this film also, but it just feels almost like you're watching too much CG in those moments. It's very well done, but it turns, the fights into what looks like a video game. And for me, that kind of like broke the moment, especially in these like big dramatic moments that are supposed to happen. And also in one of the fights, it really kind of cuts, like it has a really good first and the second round, and then it kind of cuts in the third round, and they have this like really dramatic moment that is supposed to really heighten the drama, but to me it felt a little bit, again, too CG, too like attempting to like make it too dramatic, and it like cuts to the 12th round, and like you didn't get any fighting in between. Essentially, they just kind of fast forward to the 12th round, and then essentially that's the last round of the fight. So again, surprising, but I didn't love the boxing as much as I expected to, especially in the Creed movie. And the last thing I did not love as much is the ending. And now there will be major spoilers, but that is another thing I didn't love. And I'm going to go into that right now. So, like I said, the big kind of issue in this film is that someone from Creed's past, Damian, comes back into his life, and Creed and him had been friends. There was an incident where Damian got arrested and Creed got away, and he kind of feels responsible for it. Essentially, Creed picked a fight with someone that used to beat them up when they were both at a boys' home, and then Creed got jumped, and Damian came out and like pulled a gun on them to stop them, and that's when the cops showed up, and so they all ran. Damian got caught. He had some priors, so he got thrown in jail for a very long time. Creed escaped, and so Damian was an up and coming boxing star. He was like the highest rated Golden Gloves boxer in his age group or something like that. So he definitely had a promising career in front of him, but that all got derailed when he went to jail, and then story goes, Creed comes out and essentially has the life that Damian wanted. And at the start, Damian is, he's like, I want a shot, but he's trying to be kind of a little humble. And then this big prize fight, this big heavyweight fight between Creed's kind of protege Felix and Drago, who was in the last Creed movie. They're gonna have this big title fight, but Drago gets injured like right before, and they're like, "Oh no, who will possibly fight Felix?" And Creed's like, "Oh, Damian can do it. He used to be a boxer." I'm like really? Like, there's no one else who would want to fight like a heavyweight title fight contender uh in any of boxing? Like, no one wants to fight Felix. They're gonna get this no name. They do it to try to like harken back to the Rocky movies. We're like, look, like in Rocky, Rocky was came out of nowhere and he like won everyone's heart. We can try that here. It'll be like an underdog story. But I don't know, it felt a little bit too convenient. And you find out later that it was a little too convenient because Damian was the one that kind of orchestrated injuring Drago. I guess with the idea that he would then step in and fight. So the fight happens. Damian fights dirty, but he just destroys Felix very quickly. And so now Damian, with a record of 1-0, is the title content, is the heavyweight champion. You're like, what? How does that possibly happen? And all of a sudden, he flips on a dime. Like, when he's fighting, he goes very dirty. Like, he does low blows, he like punches arms, he like tries to hurt Felix, and he elbows him also, which was a big change. I guess, I don't know. I wish they would have like built it up a little more rather than have him like turn on a dime. And after he wins the title, he just like instantly goes into like, I don't need you, Creed. I'm the champ now. What's up? And just starts dissing Creed everywhere he can, which again felt like a very weird character turn, like a very quick character turn. And so now Creed is like concerned because his boxing protege was humiliated, and now this guy is like talking about him. And so that's the big dramatic thing that happens. And also you find out he also feels like responsible because he never visited Damian when he was in prison. He just like ignored that, went on with his life, and he feels, like he abandoned him, which he did, but he was also a kid and scared and whatnot. He probably should have written to Damian. But all this build, and there's this moment where Creed is talking to Bianca, and this felt very weird because they're trying to figure out like what to do. And before this, there'd been a lot of like story time put into the fact that Bianca had a successful career, she was a rock star, and now she like transitioned into more producing because she had things that she loved more than like being a rock star. Like, she wanted to preserve her hearing, and she loved her family. She didn't want to have that like rock star touring lifestyle. So she took a step back and is now producing and is doing very well. But she kind of like, there was this big point to be made about like how sometimes like priorities in your life take precedence, and you don't necessarily need to like go back and be the star. But then when Creed is like, oh, I don't know what to do, like he's talking all this stuff about me, like what do I, like there's only one way to fix it. And she's like, yeah, sure, go do it. Like, do what you have to do. Like, what? They'd had this whole storyline of like, you don't necessarily need to be the star. Maybe there was other things that could happen. And also, she seemed to like Creed and liked him not being injured and or permanently disabled. So it'd be weird for her to be like, okay, go in the ring and fight. You haven't been fighting for 3 years. This guy just destroyed the number one contender, your protege that you've been training for years, but go ahead and go fight. Like that, it felt too quick to turn. And I know that they need to, because look, it's a Creed movie. You're going to have him fight. But it really felt like it was just like turn on a dime. All of a sudden, like all the family stuff they built up just went away. So now Creed starts training. He's old. They have a training montage, although not long enough of a training montage for my taste. It was a pretty decent length, but it should have been a little bit longer to get him from out of shape for 3 years to boxing form. He gets the boxing form. They have this fight. It's an awesome fight because they set it at Dodger Stadium. So it's a really cool thing where the boxing ring's in the middle and then there's crowds all around. It's a really beautiful shot. They go in. Everyone thinks that Damian's going to destroy Adonis, but wouldn't you know it, the heart and skill of Adonis at least let him fight it out. And this is where they do the first round, second round, and the third round. They have this like cut where all of a sudden they go into the ring, and then everything, they essentially go into like a shadow world. It's not really a shadow world, but like you go into their heads, I guess, and they block everything out. So all you see is the ring. Everything else is like obscured with like, I think either darkness or smoke or something. And there's essentially no sound. And they just do like a fight between each other. And during this, like Creed gets pushed into the ropes, and like jail cell bars come up behind him to like signify how impactful a moment this is. It felt a little bit overdone, and also kind of like took away from the boxing for me, because during this round, which is a decent round, all of a sudden at the end, it's like and that was round 11. You're like, wait, it started at round 3, now it's done with round 11. It feels like you missed a lot of the boxing action between there, because you did. What I love about the Rocky movies is it would at least like have highlights from each of those rounds, someone getting punched or like them like pep talking him. But essentially you go from 3 to 11 to the final round, and in this final round, they're fighting. Creed, has to like, he's been holding back. He's been a boxer, and his trainer goes up to him and be like, I need you to be a fighter now. And so now Creed comes out, they fight, and he finally like gets a hole in Damian's armor. Damian's been fighting like this the whole time, which almost feels like a fight style from like Punch Out. And Creed eventually like is able to kind of time it right, so he punches right through his arms, hits him in the face, knocks him out, and Creed wins. And yay, Creed wins, knocks him out. Go Creed. After this, Creed, because he's a great guy, and I guess because he still feels responsible, he goes to Damian's locker room. And this is the guy that has been like talking, he's been talking like mad trash to Creed the entire time. They sit down and Creed's finally like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry I didn't, I wasn't there for you. And Damian, who had been like essentially blaming Creed for all this, clearly had like some beef with him, was just like, we were just kids, bro. It's not on you. Like, none of it ever was. Like, what? He just basically is like, they squash the beef in a second. And then Creed tells him like, it wasn't on you either. And then they shake hands and that's it. And it just, again, it feels like another turn. So Damian's character goes from like respectful, wanting Creed, not wanting Creed's help, but trying to like work his way up, to turning to like mega foil, I'm like the bad boy of boxing, and then comes back to like, okay, we're even. And again, everything just felt a little bit too quick of a turn, too convenient. Creed comes out. He sees his daughter who's like shadow boxing in the ring. And it's a very cute ending scene, but like Creed goes in and Bianca's there as well. And Creed like helps her fight and like plays with her in the ring. And that's it. That's the movie. That's Creed 3. There's no stinger at the end, so you can feel free to leave after that. But again, it has its moments, and I love these characters. And of course, I'm going to go see a Creed 4, but this felt like the weakest movie in the Creed franchise. So I definitely think you should rent it. You'll go see it eventually. But if you want to see it in theaters, it comes out on March 3rd, 2023. And thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.